Hey there, my name is Keith McNally, and I wrote a book about The Last of Us, which you can get for free at keithcourage.com. And I'm working on an audio version of the book, which I'm putting out on this podcast feed / YouTube channel. But it's going really slow, so I had the idea that in between chapter releases, I would review some video games. So my idea is I'm going to check in every hour. I just think this would be a neat way to review games where, you always feel a lot different at the start than you do in the middle, than you do at the end. So I just thought that'd be a cool thing to chronicle. I had my cousin install his copy of Far Cry 5 on his PS4. So, Far Cry 5, my expectations are not extremely high. I have no particular hope for the storyline. I don't care about the story. I almost never care about storylines in video games. More and more, I kind of wish they would just get the fuck out of the way. The gameplay side is a lot more interesting to me. And gameplay-wise, obviously, Far Cry 2 was a long time ago. The series has moved way more in the Far Cry 3 direction of let's just try to make this fun. But I put 5 on hard, and it makes it hard enough. It's a little hard. You gotta be on your toes a little bit. And basically today I've gotten through the tutorial. Actually, not even, I'm halfway through the tutorial. Let's talk about that real quick. I hate tutorials. I'm fucking so sick of tutorials, but I don't know how to fix it. It's like you do need to teach a player how to play a game, but tutorials are brutal, particularly in Far Cry games. In Far Cry 3, if you don't fast travel when they're trying to teach you about fast travel, you'll fail the mission. It's so obnoxious and so annoying. And I still find things kind of that way in Far Cry 5, where the first thing I did was turn off all the on-screen indicators. If you can get away without using them, I just prefer that. And this game even had an option, you don't even have to do it one at a time. You can just click off every on-screen indicator at once. So I was like, all right, cool. Maybe that means this game is actually designed with this in mind. Because I like having on-screen indicators removed theoretically, but most games they're not designed for you to do that, so it just makes the game impossible to play. And that's what happened here. I couldn't even get through these early tutorial parts because I just didn't know where to go. It's like, okay, just go meet this guy at a cabin. Like where? What cabin? Where am I going? Without the big obnoxious blinking cursor on screen that says go 115 meters this way, is really no middle ground. It's like either this fucking magical symbol is right in your face all the time, or you have no fucking idea where to go. Because things just aren't visually laid out in any way that's fucking logical. That cool shit like Far Cry 2 where you just pull out the map and then put it away once you've gotten your orientation. None of that shit. So instead I turned all that stuff on for now. I'm gonna leave it all on while I do the tutorial, and then I'll turn things off as I go, one at a time, But basically, halfway through the tutorial, it's like, all right, now you're in a Jeep and you gotta shoot people, and since I had it on hard, I just got killed, and I'm like, whatever, whatever, I'm set up. I'll get back to this later. Just gotta get through this tutorial, man. Once the game opens up, because that's the thing too with all Far Cry games, is it's fun when it's open and it's like you decide how you're gonna attack a situation. You scope things out, you prep all your stuff. That's what's cool. Once you're boxed in, that's not cool at all. That's not fun. Even in Far Cry 2, those were the worst parts where you're on a barge and you just gotta shoot at stuff as you go down the fucking river. So this is a small version of that too, of just when you're just trapped in a car and all you're doing is just shooting at people, it's so boring. It's just moving a fucking little reticle on people and shooting. It's the worst. Oh yeah, I guess I should say what I did notice about the story so far is it's a cool idea. You're in this compound in Montana where this religious group has taken over, has really taken hold of the community. But you show up and there's this huge fucking statue of the main dude, Joseph Seed, I think his name is. He's the big bad, he's the villain of the game. And it's like, whoa, this dude's doing well, that's fucking cool. And then when you show up, everybody's on his side, nobody wants you there. and you try to arrest this guy because you're some kind of fucking federal marshal. And he not only escapes and fucks up all your shit, but you realize that the dispatch you were talking to are on his side too. And it really calls into question, like, who the fuck am I? And why do I not like this guy? This guy fucking rules. He's got a giant statue of himself. He's taken over this whole area. Everyone treats him like some kind of god. This is a proactive man. This guy has done things in life. Who am I? I'm some shitty cop. I fucking suck. You know? And in Far Cry 3, your character couldn't have sucked worse. At least in Far Cry 2, they leaned into it, you know, like you're just another mercenary. But this idea that I'm the good guy and he's the bad guy, man, fuck that. This guy is way cooler than me, way more interesting than me, way more accomplished than me. He's a better man than I am. I'm just a fucking idiot. So that's how I feel about that so far. All right, Far Cry 5, hour 2. Man, fucking tutorials. Just like I was saying last time, I don't like tutorials anyway. I think if there is an area of modern gaming that seriously needs examination, it's tutorials. And Far Cry games, it's like a joke at this point. How are tutorials in Far Cry games so fucked up all the time? It's exactly the situation I was in before, where I was in one of these, you know, you're just strapped in the car. I have no choice but to get in the vehicle. I'm stuck in the vehicle. All I can do is aim my little aimer at people and try to shoot at people. But the problem is, I already set the game to hard. I already turned off fucking aim assist. I turned off auto aiming while driving. Because I know when I get to the game proper, I don't want any of that stuff. But tutorials are, in their own weird way, sometimes the hardest part of a game because they're so narrow. It's like, okay, here's where you learn this one thing, and if you don't do this one thing, you can't progress. And the openness of the game is not there for you. So for example, why I like playing games on hard is because I like the game to be able to push back. You know, I like for the parameters of the game to seem clear. Specifically in a game like this, if I run straight towards somebody with a gun, I want to die. I don't want to be able to do that. Because if you're able to just kind of fudge your way through a situation, it's much harder to take the situation seriously. Like, it's just hard to believe in the simulation. And in this game, I think it seems like they did a pretty good job. The hard mode is a pretty decent hard mode. You know, it's not like Far Cry 2 insanity, but if you just run straight into even just a small encampment of like 3 people, they'll probably just gun you down. So you just can't do that, you know? You gotta strategize, you gotta think, you gotta learn the systems, you gotta approach things logically. That's great, that's just what I want. But the deal is, if you can't just directly run and gun, you can't run headfirst into a situation, then you need to have other options, you know? It's like, okay, I can't run straight toward this, so I gotta think of something else to do. I need to think of another way around this. I need to think of an alternate strategy. And that's what Far Cry games are all about. But for example, in this opening part, like, oh no, quick, run over, buddy, come get in the truck. And then I'm stuck in the truck and I'm handcuffed. I can't leave the truck. I can't control the truck myself. I would never do this, you know? I would never, ever do this. Or I would try it, you know? It's like, okay, I got in the truck and I got killed. So next time, let's not get in the truck. Let's run into the woods. You know, this game is about terrorism. It's about guerrilla warfare. The only way that it's even remotely believable for a single person to take out all the people I'm gonna take out is because I get the drop on them. You know, you examine the situation, you're careful, you take people out one at a time, you don't run and gun. but I just don't have any of those options here. And it's just annoying. Like, I did it like 10 fucking times. And it's like, dude, what the fuck? This is just so fucking annoying, you know? It's like they might as well have chained me to the side of this fucking truck and just let everybody shoot me. It's so fucking annoying, and it's just like, all right. So I put it down to easy just to get past this segment, just to get past this section. And then I put it back up to hard after. And it's just annoying out of the gate that I gotta do this. Like, what the fuck, man? Come on. You know, it is so hard. Like, instead of Far Cry evolving to a fine point, it's just kind of a mess still. Like, that's mostly what I've been finding as I go. There's other examples. I know I'm harping on this one thing, but it's just fucking tiresome, man. It's like, what I really like, I know this isn't a realistic thing for a mass market game like Far Cry, but the best case scenarios are games that don't have a difficulty selection and are just hard. And you just have no choice but to learn how to deal with it, and the game is balanced for that. In this case, the game was definitely not intended to be on hard at this point, and if it is, it's just all fucked up and it doesn't work right. But anyway, I got through that, and this fucking jerk-off starts talking to me. And he's talking and talking and talking, and I start looking around, and the game brings up a hold circle to skip this guy's talking. And it's like, that's another thing. It's just storylines in video games. It's remarkable to me now when I think back to like the days when I would talk to all the people and I would listen to what they said. And I would read all the little notes, where in this I'm just like, guys, shut up. Like, it feels weird to start skipping dialogue already. But I can feel it coming. This guy's big fucking face in my face, filling the screen. Oh, there's no way out. You know, the smart thing to do would have been just for me to hand you over, but who knows, man? There's the tiny flickering light of resistance, and maybe we can stoke them flies and fucking shut the fuck up. And then, yeah, right after that, I fucking found a little note in his house, and I'm like, can you imagine reading these notes? Can you fucking imagine? But anyway, we got out into the game proper, and now we're on a tiny little tutorial island, and this isn't so bad. At least I'm relatively free now. So I ran around, did the island tutorial stuff, Far Cry'd it up a little. And then once I got into combat, at first I was gonna leave on the little detection meter that shows you how close someone is to spotting you and what direction you're being spotted from. I'm like, you know, it really is easier to play with all that stuff on, but let's just try with it turned off. And right away I was like, oh no, off is better, because when those indicators are on, you just play the game through the indicator. You know, you don't really pay attention to what's actually happening. You just look at the indicator, where as soon as I turned it off, it's like, okay, now I actually need to scope out what's going on. Where are the bad guys? How do I approach this? When you're skulking up to somewhere, you really have to be careful. You have to do it properly. I turned off the tagging, you know, where you can tag in enemies. You can always see where they are. Turn that off. Turn off all that shit. And it started being a Far Cry game, and I was having an okay time. And I got through the little tutorial island, and I'm like, all right, that's pretty good. At least I'm out of this initial hump. Things are setting up pretty well. I found a little gun vendor as soon as I got off Tutorial Island. I have almost enough money for a sniper rifle, and you know, like I was saying, how I turn up the difficulty and turn off all the aim assist and stuff. I pretty much need a sniper rifle. Like, the game doesn't really begin until I get a sniper rifle, because the game for me is going to be carefully observing people and sniping them, and then guerrilla attacking them and just hoping things don't go horribly wrong. And if they do, just try to cause enough chaos that I can get the fuck out of there. That's my basic Far Cry philosophy. So anyway, I get off the island, I find this fucking gun merchant, and I noticed earlier on when I saved some people that there's a thing now where you can talk to people, a little talk icon. And what do they say? Every single person I talked to said, like, seriously, thank you. Oh, I don't know what we would have done without you. And I tried talking to the weapon vendor, and she's like, hey, do you ever do hunting? You could do some hunting. And then she starts saying, you seem like the kind of person who doesn't do a lot of hunting, but maybe you should. So I walk away and she goes, I'm not done talking to you. Like, fuck, you're not. You just said the same goddamn thing twice. Why is there an option to talk to these people? Why is this a new addition when they have nothing to say? If there's something they have important to say, can't they just say it when I walk into their proximity? Why would you add in a new extra interaction that does nothing, you know? I'm already telling myself, like, just don't do it. You're gonna see that thing come up all the time and you're gonna wanna press the button, but don't do it. Don't talk to anybody. There's no reason to talk to these fucks. Oh, it's also weird where you loot with the square button, but you also take. And taking is just like, oh, I guess I'll take this ore. And since I took the ore, I'll drop my baseball bat. And it's so hard to loot small spaces because it's like, all right, I just want to take the stuff. You know, the ammo and shit, the health kits, but I'm just like picking up and dropping ores. And it just never stops. It's just like constant pick up drop. And it's like, this is fucking annoying. There should be an option for that. Just never pick up a melee weapon if I already got one. I don't really care. I'm not that particular about whether I got a lead pipe or not. Who gives a shit? It's just getting in the way. It's just gummed up. And then, so the final thing is also on the map, it's like, you know, you're in skunk territory. We'll mark on your map that there's skunks around here. And, you know, like that lady was saying about the hunting, perhaps you should hunt some skunks. But there's also that part of me that's like, do I want to do this again? Do I want to do this with my life? Do I want to run around trying to get all these different little animal pelts and stuff? So I added that to my tally of like, just don't do it. Don't talk to the people. Don't pick up everything you see around because it's just annoying. Don't fucking hunt. Just don't do it. Unless you absolutely have to for some reason, don't do it. I need to streamline this game for myself because the game is not streamlined. And yeah, that's the thing too, is like Far Cry 3 I give a big pass to because they changed a lot of stuff from Far Cry 2 and arguably for the better as far as a mass market product. You know, Far Cry 3 is unquestionably more fun than 2. Maybe it's not as good of a game in a lot of ways, but it is more fun. But because it was like this first attempt at changing the formula, it's like, all right, it's kind of messy and it's kind of fucked up, but I can give it a pass. But again, that was fucking years ago. They made 4, they made Primal, they made all kinds of fucking shit since then. And it's not more streamlined, it's less. This game is just a fucking mess of weird shit going on. And it's like, I gotta try to eke out my own fun. So anyway, that's a lot more negative than I expected it to be. But I feel like I at least got some grounding now. I'm at the actual proper game. I'm about to buy a sniper rifle, and I should be having fun soon. Man, one thing though, because they change the setting each time for Far Cry games, that's one thing that's weird is like, they really nailed it with Far Cry 3. It was so much more fun to run around the tropical islands of Far Cry 3 than it was to run around the Himalayas and than it is to run around Montana. These environments are just not as good. Maybe they should just go back, man. Just go back to the beach, because that shit was cool. But all right, there's session number 2, Far Cry 5. Old man yells at Cloud. Now let's time warp forward. All right, hour 3 and 4. It's going well, but it's going slow. I actually have a section in my Last of Us book about this phenomenon and specifically about Far Cry 4. How it really can take me a while to get my footing in games like this. And then once I do, it's all good. But I'm still in that awkward early section where I'm sort of just trying to get my footing and figure out what the fuck's going on. But it's going okay, and this is a good way to try to explain my dumb brain a little of what I like about playing on hard. So I was saying how much I hate it during lockdown tutorials, and if this happens later during story missions, I'll feel the same way. When I'm trapped in a car and I have no option to get out of the car and I just get Swiss cheesed by bullets in a second, that's not cool. But it's totally cool when I have options. So basically, I went to whatever, I was just wandering kind of. I've got to pull up my map to figure out where things are because I turned off the on-screen indicators of where my next destination is. So I was just wandering around and I bumped into somebody that was like, hey, you should go help out my friend over here at the fucking marina or whatever. And I go over that way and it's the first encampment, you know, it's got the alarms, the whole shebang, standard Far Cry shit. But I'm like, awesome, this is what I'm here for. And even better, over to the side was like a little sniper perch that had a sniper rifle in it. So that sniper rifle that I couldn't afford, I just picked one up. And I'm like, cool. But man, this picking up thing, this is becoming a serious problem. I'm already developing a pretty good loadout. Like, I want to keep what I've got. I don't want other stuff. So this take command where you just take whatever weapon is on the ground, I don't want to do that. I almost never want to do that. I just end up taking something and then immediately swapping back to the other weapon that I just dropped. But I do want to loot people. I want to loot people every opportunity that I get. And it's the same button. Man, that's a serious problem. You know, why aren't they separate buttons? Why is it square to do both things and I've got to just slightly nudge my controller a little pixel to the side to do the thing I want to do and not the thing I don't want to do? There's even, so they do this thing now where you've got to hold the button a lot of times, which I learned the hard way the first time I tried to use my parachute, and I didn't hold the button and I just plummeted to my death. But even that, right? You could have loot is just press square and swap weapon is hold square. There you go. Problem solved. But no, they're the exact same fucking input for the thing I want to do a million times and the thing that I never want to do ever. Serious oversight. But anyway, I'm at this enemy camp. I got a sniper rifle and I'm like, all right, well, shit. I guess let's do this then. Let's play Far Cry. But the hard mode is pretty respectable. You know, you get killed really quickly. And I tried like 3 times and I just failed each time. I got noticed, reinforcements get called in. I try to do some maneuvers. I just get chopped up because I'm really still not ready. I've gotten like 2 little perks. I've got just this sniper rifle I found on the ground. I'm really not prepared for this yet. But that's what I like about playing on hard, because I was like, fuck, like trying to think it through in my brain, like, all right, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fucking deal with this situation? And after like the 3rd time, I realized like, I'm not gonna. That's how I'm going to deal with this situation. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to run away. I'm going to go do something else. And that's what I like about having games on hard, as long as you have options, because it forces you to take options you might not normally take. Like, I remember one of the first times I realized the value of putting games on a harder difficulty was I was playing Fallout 3. It's kind of just making my own fun. I put it on really hard. I tried not to use the fast travel map unless I really had a long way to go. And I didn't use VATS. And I was like, let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. And it makes everything way harsher and way more brutal. But it makes just little throwaway encounters more interesting. Like, there was this one part where it was this, just an abandoned house in the distance filled with raiders. And it's not like a distinct setup. It's just random shit. You know, I've played through Fallout 3 before. I know there's nothing in there. It's just, if I did go loot the place, it would just be full of random junk. But on a lower difficulty, that's what would have happened. You know, I would have VATSed the shit out of those fucks. I would have killed them all. I would have gone into the building and I would have cleared it out. And it all just kind of would have been just more grist for the mill, you know? Wouldn't really mean anything. It's just the Fallout loop. But in this situation where it was set to hard and I didn't use VATS, I tried a little bit. I tried sniping people. I tried sneaking up on the building. Things were really not working out. And I realized what I had to do, because they were shooting the shit out of me, is just run away. And it just kind of opened up this like possibility space in my mind. This was years ago that this happened, just because I realized how rare that is to do that in a video game. That is just not usually in a video game player's vocabulary. You see bad guys, you kill them. You see a location, you loot it. You don't run away. But I couldn't deal with it. And why should I? You know, it's the post-apocalypse. I'm one dude. There's like 5 or 6 raiders in this building. They have the tactical advantage. They have the numbers advantage. There is no reason I should be able to kill them. And by running away, instead of that area just being just whatever, here's just an area filled with random people, filled with random loot, blah, blah, blah. It took on this feeling of realism, like just extra verisimilitude, where that felt like a real place. That felt like a real, like raider squat. And those felt like real people in there trying to defend their shit. And it just was so much cooler. It made the whole world feel more real. And that's when I started to realize that when you just throttle a game, when you just see every single corner of the map and you see every single little fucking piece of content and little piece of potential information that's available, that's not nearly as good as when you have blank spots. When you have stuff that you can't see because you can't go there, because you're not God, you're not Superman, you're just a guy trying to survive. I prefer that so much more. I think it's so much more compelling and so much more interesting. And like when a game's too easy, my brain just goes dead. But when a game's too hard, my brain wakes up and it's like, okay, what are we gonna do here? How do we get around this situation? And sometimes all you can do is run away. So that's what happened to me in Far Cry, where I would even when I decided, okay, I'm not gonna try to take down this encampment, but there is an explosive barrel right in the middle, and I got a sniper rifle. Let's just be an asshole. Let's just blow up that barrel, kill 3 guys, and then just run away. But they chased me and they killed me. And I'm like, I can't even do that. But it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to find the edges of the simulation and to realize, like, yeah, I have to take this seriously. I have to at least pretend that this is a real situation, that I'm one man against a bunch of enemies. And I gotta act in an at least moderately sensible way, I gotta be Rambo from the first movie. I gotta be guerrilla warfare guy. I can't be Rambo from the later movies where I'm just spraying bullets at everyone. So yeah, I just completely left. I'm just like, fuck it. I'll be back later. I hope whoever I was supposed to fucking help in there is okay, because it's gonna be a while before I'm back this way. I am not ready. And I just left, and it's like, cool, yeah. This is coming together. This is what I like about games like this. So then I just started, I guess I really should probably bear down on doing some of the lower level challenges just so I can get perk points. I've got the wingsuit because I was just like, right away, let's just go for that wingsuit as quick as possible. But I find it usually is better to spend a little time upgrading your character just a little before you do a lot of stuff, because then it's like hours later I'll be like, oh, I sure wish I had unlocked that super useful ability that I didn't unlock many hours ago. But for now, I'm just picking up whatever perk points I get by accident. I like that too when there's branching perk charts. That's cool too, because it's a nice way of diffusing difficulty a little bit. You know, like I like games to be hard, but I don't want to just get stuck forever, obviously. So it's nice where you can determine where your weaknesses are and you can build your character in that direction to kind of shore up the things that you personally are not that good at without just dropping the difficulty of the entire game down. Like for me, for instance, generally speaking, I'm all about sniper rifles and shotguns because if I have the time to carefully snipe someone, I'm all right. And if I don't, I just want to shotgun them in the face as quickly as possible Because that middle ground, that Call of Duty no scope, trying to get a headshot when a guy has just leaped right in front of you, I'm not good at that. I'm really bad at that, in fact. So I like taking perks that kind of shore that up a little. I kind of like too in this game how they've gone with, it's like a hybrid model between health kits and auto healing life. Like it used to be that you had to use your health kits, and if you didn't have a health kit, you do this little animation where you straighten your fingers and pull your bullets out, and you could slowly gain health back. But it was kind of annoying. You're just like constantly cycling these animations to try to get your life back. Where here they just give it back to you. If you can just stay out of trouble for 10 seconds, which is a long fucking time, then your life will just start to come back on its own. But you really need health kits. Especially animals. I don't know. I'm not sure yet how I feel about these animals, because like that was a weird evolution in these games. Far Cry 2 had only passive animals, because I think they said they wanted to put in dangerous animals, but they didn't have time in development. So it was just like, here's just some zebras to hit with your Jeep. And then Far Cry 3 had a pretty good balance. There was some stuff that was a little weird, like the water stuff. Like it's scary the first time you get grabbed by an alligator, but then you realize it can never actually kill you. It's just a jump scare. But then 4 really upped the ante, where it's like, man, I seem to be getting killed by animals a lot. And this game feels that way too. Maybe it's my own fault because I was going up into the mountains. But as soon as a mountain lion shows up, like a fucking cougar, forget about it. You're just fucking dead. It's annoying. But it's like, all right, I guess I shouldn't be up in the mountains without being more prepared or being in a vehicle or something. But basically, because I didn't have a distinct mission that I wanted to do at this point, I just looked for landmarks. I'm just like, all right, what's around? What should I do? So it's like, well, let's go up a mountain. And the first one I went up to was Raptor's Peak, where at the top of the mountain, there's like a little platforming puzzle that I don't love. I failed it a couple of times, and I'm like, okay, well, fuck this. I'll get back to this later. But once I got up there, I'm like, oh, that's another thing I love. There's that Far Cry feeling. I felt like 4 had a little too much mountainous shit going on. It wasn't quite open enough. This game seems to be a good balance. Like it's mostly easily traversable valley, but then on the outskirts are these big mountains. And once you get up on the mountain and you're just looking out at the map, it's like, dude, that's fucking beautiful. That's when it starts to, there's that weird little crossover point where video games and real life kind of start to intersect in my brain. And I just love that feeling of like being up on this mountain in this video game reminds me of being up on mountains in real life. And the two things kind of converge in my memory. Like I was laying in bed last night and I was just thinking about being on that mountain in Far Cry, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go back there. That's cool. That feels good. So from up on the mountain, I saw the most obvious landmark is obviously the big statue of Joseph Seed. And I'm like, all right, let's make that my mission then for today. Let's go try to get to that big statue. And it took me a while, because that's the other thing that's just fun in open world games. It's nice when you've got a goal, but you just keep getting distracted because there's other stuff to do. Like, oh, here's a weird little cave, and here's a stash. It was really cool, this cave, where I had to use my parachute and my grapple hook to make it through this little treasure cave. It was pretty well designed. I liked it. There's also, there's literal zombies in this game, because, they're all drugged out on the bliss drug. And like to the point where it's a little much, where if you don't shoot them in the head, they do just seem to keep getting up for a very long time. But it's kind of cool that when you're exposed to the drug, your vision gets a little swimmy and your guy acts a little bit high. And one of the mini bosses, Faith Seed, I think her name is, the sister of this family, you see her just kind of dancing around, but then when you go near her, she just disappears. It's just a vision. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I like that. And as I was making my way toward the big statue, one of those faith visions showed up. And there's this talk icon. I'm not sure about this talk icon where you can talk to random NPCs. At first, I really didn't like it because they just were saying nothing. And when you talk to the the like vendors that are out in the world that sell ammo and guns, man, don't talk to them. They just keep talking and keep talking and keep talking, and you can't buy anything until they shut the fuck up. But then eventually talking to people sort of started to pay off. It's like someone would tell me about a secret prepper stash somewhere, and I'm like, okay, that's something. I still don't quite know why there's a talk option. I feel like you could just tell me that when I'm standing near you, and that would be fine. But the talk option came up on the vision of Faith Seed, and I'm like, oh cool, let me go try that. And I thought she would just say some wacky drugged out shit, but instead it teleported me to this whole fucking drugged out vision of being up on top of the statue and of one of my martial buddies like leaping off, which may or may not have actually happened. and it was really cool. I'm like, dude, I did not expect that at all. That's awesome. And it kind of made the talk option, suddenly it sort of justified itself. Because it's like, oh, you got me. I did not expect any of this shit to happen. This is really cool. Still went on a little long, you know? Far Cry games love their fucking monologues, you know? All these monologues could be half as long. It's weird because Voss in part 3 was such a good character, but he kind of like led them astray. They're like, oh, everybody liked Voss. Everybody liked him and his big, long, maniacal rants. But that dude was the exception to the rule, man. But still, I liked it. I liked this as a totally unexpected story beat of like, they knew I was going to try to come to this big mountain with the giant statue. They knew I'd probably seen the drugged up Faith people around. And you got me. It's so cool. So far, so good. Got to build up some perk points. Got to work on my fucking arsenal a little bit. Got to improve this sniper rifle. I guess at this point I just got to wander the world and I got to figure out what I need to take down outposts, because I don't have it. I'm a little soft flesh ball that dies in a second. I guess a silencer would be the obvious thing. I got a sniper rifle, but it ain't quiet. It's all right, there's hour 3 and 4. So far going pretty well. Far Cry 5, hour 5 through 7, approximately. This might be kind of a weird review. Like before this, I did Streets of Rage 4, and it was like a nice felt review because I played for 5 hours and I was done. It was a nice little up and down. Whereas my check-ins with Far Cry, hour 5 through 7, I kind of didn't do shit. I just kind of wandered around and mostly I guess I just got perk points. Because, you know, it's just for doing different shit. Like, hey, blow up 3 guys with grenades and kill 20 people with a flamethrower. Just whatever weird shit. And you get perk points. So I did a bunch of that. It's kind of neat just to use weapons that I would normally not use. Like, I mean, now that I'm done with the flamethrower, I can't imagine taking that with me in the future, you know? And in a way, it's like a little pointless. I'm just kind of wandering around doing these little kill tasks. And it's like, yeah, this is a little pointless. Maybe I should be slightly more directed than this. But then I accidentally stumbled into a story mission at the jail where I didn't know what the jail was, just some big conflict happening. I just stayed the fuck away. But then later I was hang gliding around or like wingsuiting around. And I wingsuited into the back of the jail. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't even know what's going on here, but let's check it out. And it just triggered a cutscene and I was suddenly in a story mission. And it's annoying. I don't like story missions. I don't like them in any Far Cry game. They're just the fucking worst. Like in this case, I don't know, I was just killing a bunch of guys and they just kept coming to the point that it was obvious they were not going to stop. So I had to dig through some menus and be like, what is my objective? What is going on here? That's because there was these 3 trucks I had to blow up. But anyway, yeah, just story stuff. I don't like it. So wandering aimlessly it was. And I do think that was kind of a good thing to do just to raise my baseline a little bit. Like last time I was complaining about animal attacks and getting killed so much up in the mountains. So the first higher level perk that I bought was this one that makes animals less aggressive and makes them do less damage. And I'm like, all right, probably it should just be like that from the get-go, but all right, Far Cry, I'll buy that. It kind of reminded me of the stealth suit in Far Cry 2. It's the only thing in Far Cry 2 you really need to save up for and buy. But it just should have been the way that it is. It just makes stealth work, you know? So this is kind of similar too. It's like, hey, let's just take away the insanely over-aggressive insta-kill animals. Like, okay, thank you. Thanks for making me use a perk on that. And then besides that, I bought some, like raise your basic health. I really wish I could get a perk that would just make body armor regrow on me. Because I've got like, oh, you can hold more health kits and stuff, but I'm just eternally with no body armor. I have body armor for like a second and then no more until I go find a shop again. There's just no convenient way to get your body armor back. But I think in this like 3 hours of just dicking around and hunting animals and doing some fishing and killing people and just doing whatever to get perk points, I do think it was kind of worth it, and I'm probably kind of done for now. Because I hit the point where I'm looking through the perks and I'm like, okay, these sound neat, but there wasn't anything that I'm like, oh, that's the one I need. I need to get that next. Like I bought one that just lets you sabotage cars and they'll blow up, just because it's fun to watch cars blow up. So at that point, I'm like, okay, whatever I desperately needed, I've got it at this point. So I don't really need to just farm perk points anymore. I'll just get them as I get them as I go. So next time I play, I'll probably try to be a little more directed. Still might not do missions, but maybe I'll try to take down some outposts or something. But one thing that's kind of cool is I also don't really do co-op stuff much. I know there was a bit of co-op in Far Cry 4, but that one I didn't play a ton, so I never got into it. So this isn't actual co-op, this is just CPU co-op. But to get perk points, I was like, okay, let's bring on a little helper guy, and if he gets a certain number of kills, I get some perk points. But I found this one helper who's got a bow and arrow, and every once in a while he shoots flaming arrows at people, and I'm like, all right, cool. Because in that fucking prison mission, that's one thing that was pissing me off, is the computer fucking people, the NPCs were just useless. They were constantly just dead. They just immediately died. They didn't seem able to shoot anybody. I was like, why are they even here, man? This is fucking annoying. Whereas this guy I've got with me is way better. Sometimes he fucks up, but overall he's pretty decent. And most importantly, again, maybe this was in 4 and I never realized, but the revival system from Far Cry 2 is kind of back. Way less intense and way less epic, but yeah, sometimes when you die now, if your buddy is still alive and he's near enough around, he can get you back up. And I'm like, oh, cool, all right. I might keep this guy around just for that, I think it might be worth it. Just to get that second kick at the can if you get suddenly mowed down by like a helicopter or something. But that's one thing I've noticed too. This game's in a little bit of a weird mid mode, where the hard mode, it's pretty hard. You do die pretty quickly, but it's not hard like Far Cry 2 was hard. So I still kind of play a little bit lazily, and I still just like, for instance, when this helicopter showed up and started shooting at me, I had nothing to take out a helicopter. My only hope was to try to like snipe the fucking guy flying it, which was extremely unrealistic. But I tried to do it anyway, and I got killed. And I got annoyed that a helicopter was shooting at me. And I had to remind myself, like, no, dude, when you see a helicopter and it's shooting at you, you're just one man. You run away. Where if like the difficulty was just a bit higher, that wouldn't be a question. I would just run away. But here you can still kind of fudge stuff and you can still get away with some silliness, so I keep trying to get away with silliness. Like Far Cry 2 on, I don't remember what the highest difficulty was called, but it really was nuts, where every little step of a mission you had to treat like its own mission. Like, okay, I got to get from the safe house to the road. I did it. Okay, now I'm gonna wait up on this like little crag until a jeep shows up. All right, I managed to do it. I waited and I didn't die. Now I gotta commandeer that fucking truck. And then that's a whole epic encounter. And like, you're just laser focused the whole time because it's so fucking hard. And this game is just not hard like that. So I keep trying to do dumb shit and then I get killed. You know, I have to keep reminding myself a little bit to take this seriously and to act like a real person would act. Which is one thing I like about games just being ludicrously hard. You know, I think there's something to be said for that, because it just forces you to role play it correctly, kind of, you know? It forces you to run away from helicopters. Although even that there are helicopters, that's something interesting too, is it kind of makes sense because you're dealing with this American militia. It makes sense that their weaponry is a little more intense than your average Far Cry game. But already they're shooting rockets at me, and the mortar thing, which I was not happy to see the mortar come back. Those were in Far Cry 2, and to this day there's this one island where this fucking guy just mortars you, and I never could figure out where he was. I was just running away from his mortars the whole game, and I never managed to kill him. I tried looking it up on like GameFAQs, and I'm reading this post about where this guy is, and I couldn't figure it out. It's just like, fuck, so annoying. But yeah, it does make sense though that these guys have mortars and rocket launchers and helicopters. You know, it's fucking America. When America goes crazy, they go fucking crazy. So yeah, I think that's it so far. I'm perked up a little. I got my little helper buddy. I guess I should just do a real careful comb through the shop, make sure I've got exactly the weapons that I want to have. I've got a third weapon slot, so I can have a pistol and a shotgun and a sniper rifle. I think that's probably the plan at this juncture. And then we'll see. We'll see what happens next. All right, Far Cry hour 8 and 9. You know, I'm pretty settled in at this point to just doing Far Cry shit. And yeah, definitely, just like all the other games, I prefer the side missions way more than the main missions. My favorite is definitely when the main story just kind of feels like I'm doing a side mission. Like that thing where I suddenly got pulled into one of Faith's crazy drug things. That happened again, just kind of out of nowhere, and it's like, that's cool. That feels like a good way to progress stuff. Like, I'm just running around doing my shit, and things progress, and that's cool. Man, though, everybody talks twice as much as they need to. Like, everything from long monologues to just tiny little conversations with offhand NPCs, they're all double what they need to be. And it's like, if I somehow became a project lead halfway through, they brought me in, I'd be the guy that everyone in the office would hate, because they'd be like, have you heard about this? The new guy said we have to go through every line of dialogue, literally all of it, and reduce it by 50%. And they would think I was a fucking idiot and a total asshole, but it would be for the best. There is no need for these long diatribes. Like even when the little drug thing happened, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. But then the main bad guy just starts blah, 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 blah. And I start looking around, so the prompt comes up to let you skip. And I start just tapping it. You know, you gotta hold it for a second to skip. I'm just tapping it, you know? Testing fate. Like, come on, buddy, come on, shut up. And he just wouldn't stop talking, and I skipped it. I'm like, fuck it, I guess we're here already. We're already at the point where I'm just skipping shit. Because it's not necessary. Like, video games have so many ways of telling a story that are not just a person telling you a story. Like, this story is being well told through the game itself. It's pretty cool, you know? It's like you see the conflict between the crazy cult and just the normal people who live in this area. And at first I thought it was funny how the bad guys all kind of look the same. It seemed surprising to me that, you know, I was like, I thought PS4 would have enough memory to have different looking bad guys. But I think it's deliberate, and it is actually helpful to just be able to identify who's a bad guy right away. It's like, okay, these guys that all look the same, they're bad guys. But yeah, like, I like the setting, I like the vibe, I like the story this game has to tell. But it's telling it to me, you know? I'm absorbing it just through being there, just through playing the game. once you get a long letter that I'm supposed to read, or a person just blah blah blah. There was this one chick that I fucking rescued who's like one of your special companions. She literally said like, okay, I'm gonna make this quick. And then blah 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 blah. And she's like, okay, no time. Blah 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 blah. But it's like, are you fucking kidding? Are you fucking kidding? Is this a joke at this point? You have a character literally saying, I'm not gonna spend a long time talking, and then she talks for a straight fucking minute. It's ridiculous. Like, what the fuck is up with this logorrhea? But one thing that's cool is I found this cougar. I'm starting to do missions, right? So it's like, okay, here's this cougar that's friendly that you can have as your buddy instead of a human being. And I'm like, all right, I'll keep the cougar again just to get the cougar kills, get my perk points. But I got to go back to people because I need a person to be able to revive me when I get fucking gunned down. And it turns out the fucking cougar can do that. It just comes over and licks you and you get back up. It's like, oh, that's all I needed to get. I guess that's all the people do too. They just come give you a fucking over the top fucking predator hand grab and you're back up. But I thought that was kind of funny. Now it's the Great Plateau. I've gotten over the early part of the game. We'll see if I actually make it to the end point, if I actually struggle my way through all the storyline missions. It's unlikely. All right, Far Cry hour 10 to 12-ish. So one thing that's cool is since I haven't really been doing story missions, I didn't really realize how this game is structured. And I definitely approve. Because like I was saying about the old games, like 3 and 4, especially 3, I loved running around and doing side mission stuff, but I hated the story missions, just fucking hated them. But it turns out why the storyline stuff has just kind of happened sort of spontaneously in this game is because I have been building up experience in each zone. Like all the random shit that you do gives you experience, and when you hit certain milestones, the story progresses. And there's still some more distinctly story-ish missions, and true to form, I don't really like them. But I like that the other stuff contributes, you know? Side missions aren't just side missions, that all kind of builds to something. Because didn't Red Faction Guerrilla do this back in the day? I didn't play a ton of that, but if I remember right, it's like you went out and caused chaos and it built up and that's how you progressed. Because that would be like my fantasy, is just a fully open, organic game where you just run around and do shit and the story just happens around you. That'd be awesome. And Far Cry 5 is a big step toward that. Way more that type of thing. It's just really neat because I was kind of rolling around in my head like that's probably something I'm going to complain about is that it's not like this. And then I realized that it is. I'm like, oh, actually the shit that I was ready to be annoyed by is actually not how this game is. So cheers on that. That's awesome. So that's definitely a step forward. One thing that is just not a step back, but not a step forward is I'm really sensitive to sound, and I especially hate repetitive sound in games. Like I was saying how the whole game is way overwritten and everyone talks way too much. But I always think people should just have less dialogue in general, like even just ambient talking. Because if your companions don't talk, that's fine. You don't really notice that. But when they talk too often, it's the fakest thing in the world. You know, as soon as someone says something twice, everything feels fake. And it's like there was no need for that. Just have them speak less. And I was using the cougar as a companion, and then I got the dog. So I was surprised when I had a human as my companion that they wouldn't stop talking. They just kept babbling shit to me. And it's like, game, whoa, like I know I'm a little more sensitive to that type of thing than the average person, which seems to annoy me more, but this is like a deal breaker. Like I can't have this person as my companion, or I can't play with the sound on if they're gonna talk to me the whole time. Like, It's so fucking annoying. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't make the situation feel more real. It doesn't make the person feel more real. It does the opposite. We're fucking hardened, sneaky assassins. It's fine for us to be taciturn. You know? When this other character is just spouting off their little fucking pre-made phrases over and over. Nothing screams video game more than that. And bad video game at that. So I don't know, it's weird to see these strides. There are certain things that are moving forward in open world game technology, like the story structure, the mission structure being more open, and then stuff that has just not progressed at all. They got their feet planted and they're like, this is how we do it. This is what we do. Arrow to the knee, what was that, 2011? We didn't learn a goddamn thing. It's also weird, just open world stuff in general. It really is a strange situation having so many different game types mixed together. Because even though things are a little more open, I still just really prefer side missions. I don't know why. I just compulsively do side missions. I just like them better. The world feels more real. The tasks feel more legit somehow. So much so that I was just doing fishing missions. And it's weird to be standing on a shoreline trying to fish and everything's calm, and then a fucking plane shows up and just starts like and dropping bombs on me and stuff. I'm like, fuck dude, I was trying to fish. That's weird too. So I was saying how one thing I like about perk systems and, you know, those like character development charts is you can kind of shore up the parts of the game that it's like you can balance the game for yourself. Like in this case, once like helicopters started shooting at me and stuff, I'm like, this is a little much. I'm just a person. What is this shit? But I got a perk that makes my bullets hurt more against vehicles. How that works, I have no fucking idea. And then on top of that, I unlocked the ammo piercing bullets. And you combine those things together, and it's like when a helicopter starts fucking with you, you have some hope of taking it down. It's not so bad. But that's because like a helicopter hovers in in the area and you can get in some shots. I have never successfully taken down an airplane, and I tried for a while, but it's just flies by and then it circles around, and I got my fucking rifle with my armor piercing super bullets, but it's really tough to shoot these things. I just gave up after a while. I was like, I don't know, whatever. Again, you're an airplane, I'm a person. What is going on here? This is weird. But yeah, overall, just falling into a nice little groove. I haven't finished any of the sections of the 3 major sections. I think I'm like 75% on the sisters part of the island and like a quarter on one of the dudes. So I'm getting there. Yeah, it's just, I'm in that kind of zen zone where it's just put on Far Cry, just run around for a couple hours and just do some stuff. Not a bad place to be. In that sense, pretty good Far Cry game. All right, Far Cry 5, hour 12 to 14 or so. And I feel like things are starting to slip. It could just be that, I've played Far Cry games before. You know, if this was my first Far Cry game, I would probably be a lot more into it. But now that I'm over that initial hump, I got over the awkward early parts. And then I ran around and I had some fun doing some stuff for a while. But this starts to beg the question, like, is this worth doing? You know, is it really worth doing all this stuff again? I mean, in kind of a larger sense, one reason why I'm so late to the party with Far Cry 5 is I haven't had video games in my house for a long time. In the PlayStation 3 era, my roommate in Toronto had all the video games and I played all the time. But for the entire PlayStation 4 era, I've only just played video games when they were around, you know? When I happened to be house sitting or whatever, visiting somewhere. And in this case, I moved in with my cousin for a while. He was between roommates. and I'm trapped because of COVID in my hometown anyway. So it's like, cool, he's got a TV, he's got video games, let's catch up on some video games. But I guess this is kind of reminding me why I found it so easy for all those years to just not have video games. It's just like, whatever, I can still play some shit on my laptop here and there, or just play stuff, like I was saying, whenever video games are around. But as a lifestyle, as a continuous thing to do, it's like, I don't know. Like today, for instance, since I moved across town to move in with my cousin, I was like, I should really make the journey over to the other side of town just to go say hi to my ma, I went from seeing her all the time because I was just staying in her house to not seeing her at all. And I'm like, all right, it's the weekend, she should be free. I should really go over there, do my sonly duties. But then on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, but I sure would like to play video games. Fuck it, let's just play some video games first. And if I end up using up the whole day playing video games, well, what can you do? But I didn't because I was just like, this isn't actually that fun. I don't actually like this that much. So instead, I'm on the journey to go see my ma. So, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that I'm out here in the woods walking around and that I'm going to do something in the real world that involves actual people, video games, it's like, it's kind of a good thing when video games suck. But I guess I'll get into the details a little bit of, I just kind of hit this run in Far Cry where it's just like everything is annoying. So like I was saying, I did a little fishing side quest and got a fishing pole. And then it's like, hey, if you go to the hard fishing areas in all 3 zones and beat the world records, you get an even better fishing pole, which is of no actual use, just to do more fishing. But I just love doing side shit. I'm like, that'll be fun. It'd be fun to just go find these lakes and go do the fishing. But when they say hard fishing, I assumed they meant that the fish were hard to reel in. I'm quite sure that's what that means. But it ended up being hard in a completely different way because a fucking airplane just started swooping over and shooting at me. I'm like, what? I tried to fight back, but even with my armor-piercing bullets and my vehicle buster perk, I don't know, with my sniper rifle, I just couldn't get enough shots in. I guess the plane, I don't know, it really felt like the plane was fucking rejuvenating itself between each pass. Maybe it was. I just felt like I just kept shooting it. Nothing was fucking happening. Incredibly annoying. Then I think I left the zone and it finally fucked off. And I'm like, all right, so fuck Jesus. What is that shit? That's open world to an absurd degree. I'm trying to do the fishing mini game and a fucking airplane is shooting at me. But I'm like, all right, let's try this again. And that time I was fishing and just something starts hitting me. That is one of the most annoying things, when you're just getting hit and you don't know what it is and then you die and you never even see the fucking enemy in any way. It's just like a phantom just came and killed you. That's annoying at the best of times. But in this case, I was stuck in the middle of the reeling in the fish animation. And I just start getting hit, and then I die. And I'm like, what the fuck, game? For fuck's sake. Can you not put some kind of little invisible barrier around me while I'm fishing? Can the game not just fuck off while I'm fishing? Clearly, while I'm fishing is not the time for combat situations to be happening. And again, I don't even know what it was. I didn't see anything. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. Again, this is probably for the best. What was I even doing? Why was I doing fishing missions just to get a fishing pole so I could do more fishing missions? This is fucking stupid. So I gave up on fishing. Then the fucking airplane came back again. And again, it's like, I'm one man. I am one man versus an airplane. This is just fucking silly. And I just could not take out this airplane. So fucking annoying. But it wasn't taking me out either. It wasn't shooting me enough for me to die. It's dropping bombs. It's dropping fucking bombs on me. But I'm just not dying. And this is where this game falls into this weird mid spot, where I was saying how it's hard, but it's not hard enough. Like, it's hard to take the enemy soldiers seriously because they're mostly just still fucking idiots and you can just goof around a lot and mostly not die. So then how does the game escalate, you know? As I get closer and closer to finishing a zone, as I am fucking with the enemies more and more, how do they up their retaliation? So it's just shit like this. It's just airplanes and shit attacking you. And it's like, this is just fucking stupid. It just feels stupid. This is supposed to be a game about guerrilla combat, terrorism, on the ground fucking sneaking around, setting up explosives, doing sniper shit. Not about airplanes, man. It's just too much. And like I was saying, even still, it's just awkward. Because the airplane was still missing with all its bombs, because I think they realized that'd be a little much if bombs just like fall right on your face. But I just can't seem to kill this fucking airplane. So then I was like, all right, I guess I'll go to a fucking shop. And even though I've got the loadout that I like, I guess I'll swap it out for a fucking RPG. I guess I gotta carry around a giant ridiculous weapon that I hate just to take out this airplane. And I fast travel there and the airplane is still on me. It's just there right away. And that was still a pain in the ass to take out the airplane, to the point that I Googled it. And you know there's something weird going on when Google autofills that quickly. It's just like Far Cry 5, how to deal with airplanes, you know? And apparently light machine guns are the best way to go. But people are like, oh, you know, I just snipe the fucking, I just snipe the pilot in the head through the front windshield. And it's like, dude, I don't know, maybe that's because you got auto aim on, or maybe people really are just amazing at video games in a way that I am not, but that's ridiculous. The whole thing's fucking absurd. So that was just kind of annoying and tiresome, and I'm like, all right, well, fuck. I guess I'll go do a story mission or something. So I'm on the way to go do this next story thing, and I bump into this little side mission thing of these guys. It's just really dumb. They're making a movie, and things are too loud. They need it to be quiet on the set. So please go kill all these people. It's like, all right, I go blow up these people, and then another batch of people, and then it's like, oh, these trucks over here are making noise, go blow those up. And it's just a fucking, it's so lame and stupid and annoying. And then when I gave up was because it's like, oh, one of the crew members was hurt. You failed the mission. It's like, no. I remember I hated that so much in Far Cry 3. The like, oh, your companion got killed. Mission's over. Like I give a fuck about my companion. Like I give a fuck about these people making movies. Fuck all of these people. I was a little impressed that Far Cry 5 seemed to be doing way less of this escort mission dog shit. But it's starting to rear its ugly head. And it's just like, man, what am I doing? And this is where it's like, what? I'm not having fun here. I try to do this one thing and it's fucking annoying. I try to do this other thing and it's fucking annoying. And I try to do the third thing and it's fucking annoying. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I trying so hard to make this game work for me? This is not the 5th Far Cry game. This is like the 8th one. They should have this shit a little more figured out at this fucking point. Why am I trying so hard to find the fun in this fucking game? So I turned it off. And now I'm walking through the woods and it's like, yeah, this is better. Fuck that game, what the fuck? So we'll see. I mean, I'm sure I'll dip my toe in a little bit more. But what this really makes me feel like is sometimes I'll just play games that are just kind of half-assed, just as an excuse to catch up on podcasts. But like the last time I remember really doing this was Fallout 4. To me, Fallout 4 was a big failure, F-, but I still played it quite a bit just because I had a lot of podcasts to catch up on and audiobooks and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, I can just run around Fallout 4 doing this mindless nonsense while I listen to these things. And that's where I'm at with Far Cry 5. I'm like, yeah, I guess I could do that. Could just kind of fucking mosey along. Oh, that's the other thing. I did get to another stage in Faith Seed's story, and I just couldn't listen to it. It's like yammer, blah, blah, blah. It's like, skip. fucking shut up. You know? Far Cry is a big fan of just putting someone's huge face filling the screen while they ramble on about nonsense. So yeah, I think, I guess we can pretty much put the fucking stake in the ground right here, right? 14 hours in. I mean, that's not bad. 14 hours, I guess. But it's all relative to how long a game is supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be done yet. I'm supposed to have a long ways to go. But I mean, just the more I'm talking about it, I'm like, I'm obviously done. I am done with this. But I'm sure I'll hop in a little more. So there might be a few post-mortem thoughts, but I mean, time of death, 14 hours. Whatever little bit of fun there is in this game, it's very hard to fucking tease it out from all of the nonsense. Ugh. So it's like a week later. I decided to give Far Cry 5 one last try. Ugh, what a downer. I don't know. I hope this little journey was somehow entertaining or whatever, because it's such a downer to just end with like, well, fuck that game sucks. But that game fucking sucks, dude. Like, so yeah, it's been the whole week, I've just felt no compunction to play it. So I'm like, all right, fucking Far Cry, dude, let's just like, I put in the time to get established. Can I just have some fun in this game? Can I find some fun? Let's try one more time. So I was thinking back to that mod I liked so much for Far Cry 3, where it just made it into a outpost attacking game. Like, that's all you do is take down the outposts. There is no story. And it made me realize that Far Cry 3 had a lot of cool visual stuff that I never would have realized. Like when you have the map and you have the little icon telling you where to go for your mission, you don't notice a lot of the visual touches they added in. Like there's a lot of stuff you can tell just by observing the environment. And one of those things is that you can tell where the outposts are because you can see smoke rising and you can see it from a long ways away. So you don't have to use the map at all. You can just scan the environment and look for the smoke and head toward it. And I was like, you know, that was really fun back then. Let's try that now. What if I just load up Far Cry 5, I don't use the map, I don't pay attention to the missions, I just look at the environment. I just go through the environment and look for cues for where to go and where stuff might be and what might be fun to do. And if I stumble upon some story missions or I accidentally get some perk points or whatever, like, that's great. But the first thing that happened as soon as I loaded it up is there's a plane fucking attacking me. So I'm like, for fuck's sake, dude. Like, fuck you. I'm giving you one more try and you're immediately just shitting in my face with this fucking nonsense. But I loaded up my rifle-piercing ammo and I backed myself up against a cliff, so this thing could only attack me from one angle. And I waited till it was flying directly at me, and it still took 2 passes of me shooting straight at this thing to take it out. But again, it feels so pointless. It couldn't hurt me, you know? It's like, what is the point of this? I'm just watching it circle and circle and circle, and it won't fly away. If it doesn't see me, it won't fly away. It just keeps circling. So I have no choice but to fucking take this thing on head on. But it can't really kill me, so what are we doing here? Ugh. But anyway, I get that done. And I skulk around a bit. I'm like, all right, let's play now. Let's be Rambo. Let's be First Blood. Let's creep through the woods and see what's going on. I saw the classic smoke in the distance. So I'm like, cool, all right, let's head toward the smoke. And on the way there, I found someone's abandoned cabin and I went down into their prep stash and I found some stuff. I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. Head toward the smoke. Unfortunately, the smoke is just some corpses in the middle of a poppy field that are sending up like harsh black smoke that you can see from like way far away. And it doesn't go away. These bodies don't burn. This fire never stops. This pointless fire that leads you to nothing is always going to be visible in the distance. So already it's like, well, that idea from Far Cry 3 of just using the environment to guide you to points of interest, already it's like, no, this game doesn't do that. Because if I follow this smoke, like especially I'm doing the math in my head of like, now if I just go get lost, like I want to just go get lost. I just want to be in the environment. But if I get a little ways away and get turned around and see smoke in the distance, I might just come back to this pointless fucking smoke. Like, I feel like the people who made this game don't even fucking know what Far Cry is, man. They don't know what was fun about this game. Why am I even fucking video games, man? And then, it's been at most 20 minutes, at most. Another plane showed up. And I'm out of the armor-piercing, anti-vehicle fucking ammunition. I just sit there and like the plane circles around and I try to shoot it, and the only way I can really shoot it is if it comes straight at me, but it wasn't doing that because I guess I was crouched or something. So I stood up, I'm like, hello, I'm here, I have to start taking pot shots at it. Will you please fucking notice where I am? I'm standing on top of a mountain and you're expressly looking for me. But it's like this weird thing, I guess, of like, because it is a plane, right? So they can't just have the plane massacre me. But when the plane isn't aggressive, that's even more fucking annoying because it's still just always there. I still have to deal with it. But finally I get the attention of this thing and it's just dropping bombs, and the bombs aren't even killing me. The bombs don't even matter. If bombs are falling on me, like what are we doing here? What is the point of a plane that drops bombs if you're then like, but let's pull back on those bombs because we can't have the bombs act like a plane bombing us because then the guy would just die. What would be the point of that? So I'm shooting it, it's smoking, but it's not enough for it to die. And I've got my 5 health kits and it's like, use a health kit. And the thing comes at me and it starts shooting me and I'm like, you know what? I think the combination of the bomb and the bullets, I think it's gonna get me. I should use the health kit, but I don't fucking give a shit. So it killed me and whatever, man. Fuck that. So that was like half an hour, 14 and a half hours, I guess, is where we're fucking calling it. But man, I don't know, man. Fucking Far Cry, it is just a mess. It's just a goddamn disaster of shit. Like 2, I think is arguably still, I mean, it's weird to say the best, but the most compelling. No question. And then 3 was like severely fractured. The fun parts of running around and attacking the outposts were A+. I guess I said this already, but you know, in the storyline, regimented missions are D-. They're just really bad. And then it just never cleared itself up. This series it's not moving in any direction now. 3 was at least a distinct move away from 2 of like, okay, let's just make this a little more popcorn, a little more fun. But now it's like, what even is this series? It's like, I don't know, add some of these things, take out some of these things, mix this up a little. I guess whatever, it's a militia, right? Up their weapons, give them crazy rocket launchers and stuff. That's a little fucked, but at least it makes sense with the fucking scenario. But I guess just put in some airplanes, I guess. Fuck it, right? Why not? Like, that's what's so good about the insane level of difficulty of Far Cry 2, is that it's like guided and directed. The outposts in that game are very small. There's only a few people in each one, and it's just you against other people. And besides the occasional insanity of mortars and stuff, it's mostly very grounded combat. You're a person, they're people. That's enough of a difficult situation to figure out. You don't need to up the ante. But then you get this weird push and pull of the later games. It's like, okay, we don't want it to be hard in that way. We don't want it to be not fun for people. So they just fudge it and make it silly, and you know, you're like an elastic rubber man who can't really die. But then how do you up the stakes? Like, as things intensify, as this particular zone you're in this game, say, like, it's obvious these planes have showed up because I'm 3/4 of the way through the experience points fucking chaos bar. You know, I've caused enough problems in this area that they have to up the ante. But then what are you doing? You're just adding fucking airplanes and shit, and there's no good way to deal with it, and it's not fun. And I mean, I guess I could lower the difficulty, but then what? You know, I'm already having a very hard time feeling compelled by this game, that's not going to make it better. It's just going to make it easier for me to clear out the fucking airplanes. It's just shit, man. It's just shit. I'm let down a lot by this game. What the fuck? Future Far Cry games, you can suck my dick, man. I wish somebody would make a new Far Cry 2. I've had little like fantasies about that. Make a game based on the Far Cry 2 template. And I was thinking you could name it after like a fictional language, set it in like a pseudo-Africa country again, and call it Fark Right 2. And that could be the locals' word for malaria, so everyone would know, oh, it's Far Cry 2. That's one of my dream projects that I wish I could somehow, if I ever fucking win the super lottery, I'm gonna make Far Cry 2 too. And after that, I'll make Fallout New Vegas. I wonder, could you just call a game New Vegas? Can you get away with that? Should I come up with a better name than that? Anyway, all right, so thanks for coming along on this little journey. I hope you were entertained by that. I've got some similar stuff on this channel / podcast feed. I did one of these for Streets of Rage 4. I've been talking about getting back into Magic the Gathering after a 20-year lapse. And of course, the big project is my audiobook about The Last of Us that I'm narrating and releasing here. So check those out if any of them sound entertaining. And yeah, you know what? Even just as a fucking symbolic gesture here, I mean, I'm definitely done with that game. I'm going to delete it right now. Just to fucking, I don't know, it's that feeling where I feel like I've been personally wronged by this game. There's a core of fun in there. There's a Far Cry game somewhere in there, and you're just burying it in bullshit. Ugh, what a downer. All right, well, talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. Adios.